Hi, I'm Laura Kelly and welcome to Sacred Spaces. Today we're here at the Melbourne Brain Centre with Neil Appleton, architect from Lions Architects. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Laura.
Now, talk us through where we're standing right now.
Sure. Well, we're in the main foyer of the new building. It's a very large and impressive space, and it's here to sort of welcome the public and scientists together as a sort of an area they can come and socialise and be educated in the work of the facility.
So the Melbourne Brain Centre, what is the thinking behind this building?
Sure. Oh, it's a major undertaking to bring together 450 scientists who are researching the human brain and the disorders of the human brain, with the idea that they're trying to solve some of the kind of medical issues around that. So it's a fantastic collaborative facility, and the idea is that new science will come as a result of all these scientists coming together and working at this one endeavour on the brain.
Now, it's been quite a long process bringing this all together.
Yep.
And so as Director of Lions Architects, what were the sort of needs that you had to think about as you were starting to bring this building together?
Well, how we accommodate everyone's requirements on one hand. So there's a lot of stakeholders that wanted a very collaborative facility, but at the same time we were charged by the university to create an incredibly impressive building that would last for 100 years and beyond and become a major sort of icon for the campus, sort of basically providing a real focus for research and also in some ways a gateway to the campus from Royal Parade. So it was sort of two things. It was bringing all the scientists together and making a fantastic workplace, but also creating a building that, you know, not only will be sustainable for many, many years to come, but also stand for the university's aspirations to make a really kind of, important statement about the research in Melbourne.
Well, before you show us through the building,
Sure.
just situate us in terms of where we are in Melbourne right now.
Sure. Well, we're right in the middle of the research precinct of Melbourne, medical research precinct. Effectively, this corner of the Royal Parade campus at the University of Melbourne's got a great range of researchers. There's the Walter Eliza Research Institute, there's the Royal Melbourne Hospital, the new Peter Doherty Institute's being constructed, the Comprehensive Cancer Research Centre. So effectively this becomes one of a major building in a huge precinct of researchers, and I guess the bigger vision for Melbourne is that in the end this will become a really important focal point in the Southern Hemisphere for kind of solving medical research problems, but this building in particular about mental health and the human brain.
Can you talk us through where we're standing now? We're in the foyer,
Yep.
but just some of the features of this and your thinking here.
Sure. Well, this is the main area of the foyer. It can accommodate all of the scientists in one hit, so if they're being addressed by one of the directors, they can understand what's going on. There's a cafe, obviously open to the public to get some kind of sense of meeting between both the scientists and the public. There's a bookshop which will be focused on neuroscience, which is fantastic. There's a major research lecture theatre. It's for sort of postgraduate seminars, and obviously it'll be open to booking through the university. And then at the back, really importantly, there's the Dax Gallery, which is a collection of artwork that's been brought together from mental patients, people with disorders, as a way of sort of looking at kind of what's going on through their art in terms of mental research. And then finally, really importantly in the foyer, there's this idea of the atrium. The two atriums in the building bring natural light into the building all the way down into the foyer, and it gives us this ability for the public to look up into the research facility and interconnect. So it's not a kind of closed facility that doesn't have a sense of what's going on upstairs. There is this ability for the public to understand the kind of sense of the building throughout. So it's a really, obviously it's a very large foyer, but the idea is that it's meant to be a real meeting point for a major body of people around this idea.
And that's really, going back to what you were saying in terms of the needs behind this building, that idea of the meeting point, and rather than, sometimes we might picture that scientists are kind of tucked away in a lab somewhere and they're never to see the light of day, but you've really tried to actually sort of bring people together here.
Sure. I mean, you'll realise in Australia there's this great idea that we're trying to educate people in mental health because it is a really serious problem. And so the idea that there is an openness and a willingness by the university to sort of start to try to explain its research more broadly to the public is really important, so that the endeavour continues to thrive through the support of the public, given that obviously they're in some ways involved in the building through some of the public having these issues. So we think it's really a really fantastic endeavour that the university and the three institutes that are in the building have undertaken and bringing in the public to welcome them in and get them to appreciate the depth of the research, I think is really vital to its success. Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the rest of the building.
Sure,
Should we have a look at the lecture theatre first?
Yeah, I'd love to take you in.
Great.
Let's go.
Okay, so Neil, you've taken us into the lecture theatre or the auditorium.
Yeah.
This is a really impressive space, I've got to say.
Yeah, thanks. It's we're very excited by it. I mean, we wanted it to become a very unique space, so that when you step from the foyer into it, it's like entering into, in some ways, an image of the brain. Magnetic resonance imaging technology has been used to sort of map a colour across the seats, and the LED lights that you can see on the ceiling are effectively a representation of a kind of neural network. So it's meant to be a very exciting and dynamic space for conferences. The director even had the foresight to locate a door that's large enough to bring a baby grand into the theatre. We're right next to the Conservatory of Music, so the idea is that they can also have some sort of small level conferences, music recitals in here. So it's a very multifunction space. Yeah.
Really incredible. And in terms of that thinking behind this space, and trying to use the inspiration of the brain, was that something that came up quite early in the design process?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to find ways in our design to try to link how the building functions and looks to the kind of depth of the research within it. So obviously there were a lot of leads in neuroscience research in terms of images and kind of the work they do that's influenced our design. So from very early days we're trying to think of ways of representing within the architecture a sort of idea about their business. Yeah.
Well, we're talking a lot about research, and I'd love to see the heart of the building in terms of the labs here. Would you mind showing us through?
Yeah, sure. They're just upstairs. Let's go.
Excellent. All right. So you've taken us to, in some ways, what I'm thinking of as the heart of this building, because this is where all of the research is going to be happening, isn't it?
Certainly what they call the wet research. It's a super lab. It's effectively a new age lab for about 180 scientists on one level. And it's an idea about kind of having an open environment for research rather than kind of closed cells of research. And it allows all of the people who are working in the lab to, I guess, share equipment, ideas, and to change the nature of their research very rapidly. So what you're seeing in here is movable furniture. These frames can be pulled down very easily and reorganised so that they can bring different pieces of equipment in. And really the main idea about it is also to make a great working environment, because they spend a lot of time in here doing fairly detailed work. So lots of natural light's important, and a sense of sort of being able to see back into the research environment, but also have a view back to the city so you can rest your eyes and basically feel like you're working in a decent place. Yeah.
It's interesting because my first feeling when we walked in here is we're connected to the outside world still, which is not traditionally what I would think of with a laboratory. I was sort of picturing, you'll be tucked away somewhere in the dark and kind of doing your work in the corner. But this really does feel light and open and like we're part of the world. Yeah,
I mean, this is basically somebody's real workplace. I mean, gone are the days where it's sort of an environment that isn't enjoyable to work in. So we've really tried hard to open up the views and to make it feel like it's a much more interconnected environment, so people who are working here long hours don't feel stressed and they feel like they're enjoying it.
Well, thanks so much for showing us through this building. I know that there's a lot more that we could see, but we've run out of time for today.
Pleasure.
But Neil Appleton, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Laura.